Kornacki, I just have to jump. Steve Kornacki, I just have to jump in. And you've been predicting this. We've been waiting for it. And we do have some breaking news from the decision desk. NBC News can now project that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House as this country's 47th president. And for so many of you watching right now, that news is, to say the least, a lot to digest. I understand that personally. But he's just been elected democratically in our country. And here's what might be the hardest part to hear, but we have to talk about and we have to say, and it is a hard part to digest for all of us. But we have to be honest about what we saw in this election. Donald Trump was elected by expanding his support over a number of key groups that we've been digging into this night, all night tonight, as we anticipated where this was headed, and I know we're going to dig into it throughout the course of the day today. And there will be a lot of time spent on how and why he won and what this will mean for the country over the next 4 years and beyond.
Welcome to High Cheese. It's Friday, November 8th, 2024. And we beat them. The American people beat them. A small group of self-anointed elites have tried to take over this country. And the American people beat them. Now, this has been going on for 40 years. It's been a slow process by them. Take away your jobs. Take away good-paying jobs. Send them overseas. Try to have the races fighting with each other in order to take the focus off of them. Have them take away the wealth of this country for themselves at the expense of you. And we beat them. And this is a victory for you. It's not just a victory for Donald Trump. It's a victory for the American people. It's a victory for MAGA. Every time they called you garbage, every time they called you a racist, every time they called you stupid, every time they called you a peon, every time you questioned the 2020 election, you stuck with Donald Trump. You stuck with Donald Trump through the impeachment trials. You stuck with Donald Trump through the lawfare. They tried to assassinate him. And indirectly, they were trying to assassinate you. Because I think we realize as Americans, if they can do this to Donald Trump, they can do this to you and me. And we beat them. It's not over yet. We still have to crush this ideology of theirs. But we've taken a huge first step. They've imported illegal migrants to take your jobs and dumb down your wages. And I'm not just talking about the working class here. I'm talking about the entire middle class. They were importing illegal migrants with managerial skills. They were coming after the working class, the upper middle class, because they wanted it all. And when they drove up inflation 20%, 25% for food costs, they tried to make us believe, oh, it didn't exist. The economy's doing great. And they threw out these bogus numbers on jobs. GDP numbers were up. And they tried to make us believe that everything was great. But it wasn't. And when you tried to protect your kids from transgenderism, from the state-sanctioned mutilation of children, you were called hateful. And Americans came together and realized this and put Donald Trump in office. An imperfect man. But we knew that. What American is perfect? He represented our ideals, our goals, and our expectations of what this country should be. And when you look at the numbers, it's just amazing what has been done. This is a broad coalition of people from upper middle class, working class, Hispanic, white, black, Asian. They came out for Donald Trump. They came out for this country because the American people saw through the charade that they were playing on the American people. And we had enough. And now they're looking for scapegoats. And you know who the scapegoats are to these people? It's the Latinos. How dare you join MAGA? How dare you vote against us? We're supposed to be your protectors. We're your gods. This has always been how the Democrat Party and these elites perceive everybody that's not them. You're no good. You need our help. And if you go against us, you're garbage. And now they're taking it out on Latino Americans. So I want to go to a couple of clips here. The first clip is with Joe Scarborough talking to the Reverend Al Sharpton. And they're attacking the Latinos. You're misogynist. You don't know what you're doing. Latinos don't like blacks. It's all your fault. So let's go to this first clip and then we'll come back and discuss.
Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups and say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You got some
exactly.
that don't like each other. And
Right.
and some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men.
And this is just typical how the Democrats and the elitists view everyone that doesn't agree with them. Joe Biden said it clearly a few weeks ago. You're garbage. Eres basura. It couldn't be that Hispanics feel inflation. They don't like the idea of centralized government, oppressive centralized government. They like democracy. They want to protect their children from transgenderism. They see the government going against their religion, their Christian religion. But no, they're racist. Latinos are racist now. And this is how the elites work. You're no good to them anymore. I want to go to another clip, and this is with Sunny Hostin from The View, African-American woman. And she's responding from one of the other talking heads on The View. I think her name is Alyssa Farah. And Alyssa Farah is bringing up the point that Donald Trump pulled out a high level of Latinos during this election. And what Hostin says is that, yeah, it's because they're misogynists. Latino men hate women. So let's go to this clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So-
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We
Misogyny
need
and
to take some
sexism.
lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock,
misogyny.
knock.
And this entire elitism of the left is being exposed by Donald Trump. And we just acknowledged it on November 5th. Oh, and before I forget, I want to read you some vitriol coming from social media and some of these so-called influencers. And here's one from Eli Mistal. I'm sure you may have seen him on MSNBC. He's an African-American man with a big white afro. He says, but this election really shows that a lot of other, quote, people of color do not want to defeat white supremacy. They want to join it. Here's another one from Melissa Chen. Dear Latino men, you're now the new face of white supremacy. Welcome to the club. Here's some other comments from social media. Latinos effing disgust me. Here's another one. Latinos aren't immune from being effing idiots. F Latino men. Here's a couple other ones. I know this will sound racist, but Latinos effing disgust me. Another one says, Latinos aren't immune from being effing idiots. This is what the left really thinks about people that aren't part of the machine. And when you think about it, it's amazing what Donald Trump has taken on over the past several years. I mean, it's what an uphill battle he had. He fought the Republican Party. He purged all the rhinos, all the country club rhinos that looked down on most Americans. The Uniparty. These people, these rhinos have more in common today with the Democrat elites than they do the working man and the middle class. So he took the entire Republican establishment on and beat them. Purged all of the rhinos from the Republican Party, which during the election really was helpful because the Republicans that took over nipped a lot of this Democrat cheating in the bud earlier this week. And that would not have happened if we still had rhinos in charge of the RNC. But he took them on and won. And now he took the elite establishment on, the formal elite establishment on, and beat them. And he did that by unifying the American people of all races against this small group of Bolsheviks. Now, with that said, I want to go to another clip. It's with David Axelrod, Barack Obama's former political advisor. And he's kind of sugarcoating everything. What he's saying, and I'll go to the clip, but essentially what he's saying is that, the Democrats look down on the working man. But it's not just that. They look down on anybody that doesn't think like them. Anyone that disagrees with the machine, this Democrat machine. Anyone that doesn't want to be a cog in the wheel of this machine, we look down on. And we'll attack you. He's just saying this in a technocratic way. So let's go to this clip.
But I've also been concerned for a long time about the fact that the Democratic Party is becoming more and more of a suburban, college-educated, suburban and city, metropolitan college-educated party, and still considers itself the party of the working class, but approaches non-college folks, people who work with their hands, their back, as sort of as missionaries, and the message is we're here to help you become more like us. Mm-hmm. And there's a message of unspoken and unintended, I think, disdain that was felt.
But here's what Axelrod isn't telling you. In the process, these leftists have wrecked the college system. The college system used to be a place where you could learn how to think, learn to be a productive member of society. But now it's just indoctrination with leftist ideology. And then he goes on to talk about the disdain that the left has for non-left people. He said it was unintentional. That's BS. You can't have unintentional disdain for anything. But Axelrod's trying to sugarcoat this. We don't like you, but it's not intentional. We have disdain for you. We've been indoctrinated, but we have unintentional disdain for you. And that's just not true. They hate your guts. And listen, the battle's not over. Donald Trump still has a lot to do. He's got to take on the deep state. And the deep state is essentially found in the Department of Justice, the FBI, our intelligence agencies. And he's got to purge those departments of bureaucrats that don't have the interests of the American people, that view themselves as free agents that can do whatever they want for their own agenda and not the agenda of the executive branch of the government. And there's going to be some pushback. There'll be some Democrats trying to push back to protect these bureaucrats from being fired or being transferred. And this is the interesting thing. The Constitution gives the President of the United States broad executive powers. And you're going to hear from the Democrats, he shouldn't use those executive powers because he's an authoritarian then. And what they never tell you is that everything that Donald Trump can do is constitutional. He's the executive of the United States, and he has executive powers. And those powers allow him to hire and fire people, transfer people, bring people up on personnel charges. But the Democrats are going to try to fight him tooth and nail. Now you've got the issue of deporting so many illegal migrants that are here. Now Trump is first going to target these gangs, these Venezuelan gangs, Tren de Aragua, MS-16, other illegal migrants have committed crimes here. He's going to deport them. And there's nothing wrong with that. American safety comes first. But the Democrats, particularly some of these Democrat governors and some of these sanctuary states may try to protect them. And Trump's got a battle on his hands. He'll win, but these Bolsheviks are not going to go down without a fight. Now, we've got the momentum behind us. We've got the president behind us. But they're still not going to go down without a fight. They're going to lose, but they're going to fight. Trump's got economic issues to deal with. So it's going to happen. Trump is going to win. But it's not over. And you have to continue to support him during all this. Now, the good thing is that it's likely that the Republicans are going to retain control of the House. Now, in the Senate, they've already picked up 5 seats. And Carrie Lake in Arizona still has a good shot of winning the Senate seat in Arizona. But they're still counting votes. Why can't Arizona get their act together regarding voting? But if Carrie Lake wins, that's a 6-seat swing, which gives the Republicans control of the Senate. And all of this will be helpful with Donald Trump moving his agenda along. And you're still going to see the media out there attacking Donald Trump. Now, they're going to be weakened, but I'm going to get into this, an article about the mainstream media in a couple of minutes, but this is what's on the table for Donald Trump, and we have to stick with him. We've been with him for this long, and we have to be with him when he's achieving his goals. Okay, I want to give you some winners and losers for this week, and let's start with the winners first. And the first winner is Donald Trump and MAGA. I'm going to give them 1A and 1B because they're both the same. And Donald Trump realizes this, but MAGA is bigger than Donald Trump. MAGA has coalesced around Donald Trump. And Trump is smart enough to tap into this. And he's talented enough and committed enough to push ahead this agenda. But as I said before, MAGA is bigger than Donald Trump. We were able to coalesce around this talented individual, flawed, but talented, who I think after taking a bullet and surviving an assassination attempt is a creature of divine providence. So they're the first winners for this week. The second winner is peace. Those that want peace. Now, I'm already reading a report that said that Trump's election is having an effect on the Ukraine war. And I've read a report here that said that there are proposed peace settlements that are being talked about right now. And let me just give you a quick rundown on this proposed peace settlement. Now, Ukraine's going to have to give up the territory they've lost during the war, and I think Zelensky is on board with this. So what's going to happen, Russia will retain the areas that they conquered during this war. And what's going to happen, they're going to create some kind of DMZ, similar to what we find in North Korea, the zone between North Korea and South Korea. And that is going to be patrolled by NATO. But there will not be any American troops on the ground there. It's going to be all European troops, no American troops. And the third part of this proposal will have a caveat that says that there'll be a 20-year wait period. And at that point, Ukraine will have an opportunity to join NATO. So it appears that this election of Donald Trump is having a profound impact on peace. Now, I haven't heard any reports about what's being proposed in Israel, but I did hear that Hamas is now open to a peace agreement. So peace is another winner this week. In third place comes those that want an accountable government. We've got a bloated bureaucracy. We've got too many unelected officials having an impact on our lives. We've got the issue with the deep state. So those that want accountable government, those that want government positions filled with patriots, they're winners. Now, the fourth winner is, really shouldn't be the fourth, and I'll explain to you later, but the fourth winner is those people that want a secure border and safe streets. And the reason I put it at number 4 is because we have MAGA and an accountable bureaucracy as 1 and 3, it will take care of the border. it'll make our streets safer. And that's the reason I bumped down the secure border. America first, Donald Trump in office will secure the border. So I bumped it down to 4, but it's really not number 4. And the same goes for lower inflation and a more balanced economy. Now let's take a look at the losers. And I think the big loser is pretty obvious. It's the Democrat Party. They've been obliterated. They've been exposed. And from what I'm reading is that they're in disarray right now. They're pointing fingers at each other. They're blaming each other. They're fighting with each other. And that's all good with me. But they've been exposed. And the veil has been pierced. And we now know the con job that they've been pulling over the last 4 years at least. And the second losers are the globalists. Now, it's pretty obvious on the economic level that globalism is descending. We're now moving ahead into a decentralized world economy. We no longer have to worry about the Klaus Schwabs of the world because they've been greatly diminished. Even these so-called economic experts are acknowledging the fact that globalism is on the way down. And in third place comes the mainstream media. They've been exposed as nothing more than tools of the Democrat Party and the deep state. And they've really hurt themselves. And I want to read an article here. And this is from Breitbart. And the headline says, News media election night coverage collapses by 26%. Viewership of news media coverage of Tuesday night's presidential election collapsed by 26% compared to 2020. And quite frankly, people don't trust the mainstream media. And they are now looking at alternate sites. Sites like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, The War Room, and streaming stations like Real America's Voice, other podcasters, people like me. There are thousands of people out there that don't get the viewership of Tucker Carlson, but there's enough of us that give the American people an alternate to the corrupt mainstream media. And they can only blame themselves. They lie, they mislead, they're not journalists. You've got hundreds of thousands of citizen journalists that have grown over the years, and they're much more believable than the mainstream media. So I think the mainstream media is dead for all practical purposes. Now, they may have shows and they may get some viewers because that's the only thing on. But the American people are no longer engaged with the mainstream media. They're engaged with podcasts. And I no longer want to call it the alternate media because this forum is becoming the media. Now the last loser is DEI. DEI has been diminishing over the past year at least because it's just not part of a good business model. People have to be hired because of their competence rather than their skin color or gender or identity. And if Kamala Harris had won the presidency, you'd see continued DEI programs in the public sector, in the federal government, and the Harris administration would have put pressure on corporations to continue their DEI programs instead of fading them out. But we don't have to worry about that with a Donald Trump administration. Now, if there's any suggestion I have for Donald Trump on his first day in office, here are just 3 things I would suggest. And I'm sure he's going to do these anyway. The first thing I think he should do is close the border immediately. And do this by implementing various executive orders. The second thing I think he should do is pardon the J6 political prisoners in Washington. These are Americans, and I'm not saying they're perfect. Every American should have due process. And these Americans are not being afforded due process. So I hope that he pardons them immediately and immediately releases them. While he's at it, I think he should also pardon a number of other Americans that have been persecuted by Biden's DOJ. For example, there was a 75-year-old lady that was sent to jail simply for praying outside an abortion clinic. Someone like that should be pardoned. And the third thing I think he should do is immediately deregulate the oil industry and get on the phone with the CEOs of these oil companies, those that produce the oil as well as those that refine the oil, and have them increase production. Now, there's a lot more that he's going to do, but I would just suggest that he would do those things on his first day. And the last thing I want to say is pray for Donald Trump and his safety. Pray for his family, pray for the people around him, and pray for this country. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. You have a good week.